And look YouTube and welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. In today's video, we will be looking at my predictions for this upcoming week. We got EFL Cup semi-finals, first legs to predict. We got FA Cup third round fixtures, which in my opinion is one of the most exciting rounds of the FA Cup here. Sometimes you've got a couple of non-league teams up from there and the big boys in the Premier League coming in as well. So some fantastic matches occurring this weekend. Let's start with tonight's fixture in the EFL Cup semi-final first leg here. We have Arsenal versus Newcastle United at the Emirates this time round. I think Arsenal will be desperately wanting to win a cup. Mikel Arteta will be wanting something to cement. It was a few years ago now that he's won the FA Cup, and I think another cup is about time coming towards Arsenal, so I want to win this one. Newcastle aren't going to lay down, but I think at home, Arsenal will be pretty dominant in this one. 4-1 to the Gunners. We have also got some League One action, which sees title contender Wycombe Wanderers playing against probably playoff ending team. I would imagine ending for the playoffs, Huddersfield Town. Yeah, I see this is going to be quite a difficult game. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. Cancel each other out. They've both got immense qualities in their sides, but I do feel like they could get slightly picked apart this January transfer window. We've also got Eastleigh versus Oldham Athletic in a rescheduled game. This one could be... I think Oldham's probably going to win this one. 2-1 to Oldham Athletic. I think they play each other twice this week, actually. So at the Eastleigh's Stadium, I don't know what it's called, I'm sorry. But Eastleigh's home ground, I think Oldham will take all 3 points. As they try and mount a playoff challenge with all them games in hands, it's certainly not out of the question. EFL Trophy, interestingly, I've got a game on tonight. We've got Port Vale versus Wrexham. This was also a group stage game earlier on in the tournament, and they've somehow managed to draw each other yet again. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw with, we'll go with Port Vale. They are to win on penalties. I think Wrexham will probably be more focused on trying to get to that title. I know they want some silverware, every fan base does. I think Port Vale more likely to get a cheeky cup run going. Biggleswade Town versus Oxford City. I predicted this last week, a 0-0 draw with an Oxford City penalty win, but that has been rearranged this week because of the weather. Although the weather hasn't much improved for the pitches tonight. Most of the games I've seen in non-league games are getting called off. So we'll see. Welling United versus Weymouth. This is a all National League South occasion. Well, it's a National League South, and they're both... Welling will be wanting to make sure that they don't get too dragged into a relegation scrap. I think Weymouth could definitely see getting something from this. I'm going with a 0-0 draw here. Pretty boring game, cancelling each other out. So yeah. Yeah, then we've got the EFL Cup semi-final first leg of Tottenham versus Liverpool, and I think we're going to see a replication of the Premier League game we had early on in this season. Liverpool 6, Tottenham 3. I think it's going to be chaotic. Probably both going to be playing slightly... But at this stage, actually do start playing competitive games. And Liverpool just have so much more quality. Spurs, by definition, are Spursy. They do tend to do that. Forest Green Rovers versus Dagenham and Redbridge in the National League. This one, I think Forest Green Rovers will take all 3 points here. 2-0 to Rovers. Bit of an easy game for them to get on with their title charge. Or same as last time, Rochdale v Stockton. I'm not changing my prediction. 0-0 draw with Rochdale winning on penalties. That was just a delayed game from last week. By the way, there was a suspended game. I'm not predicting that because I already predicted it in another video. Sheffield United versus Cardiff City. That's in the FA Cup. An all championship occasion in the FA Cup, though. I think Sheffield United will fairly comfortably win this one. 4-1 to the Blades, going through into the next round. Everton versus Peterborough United. I think there will be a bit of gap in quality here. Peterborough have struggled so far this season to really mount a playoff push, even in League One. I know Everton aren't doing the greatest in the Premier League, They will definitely survive from the end of the season. But Everton at home, 2-1 to Everton. Pretty routine win. Fulham versus Watford in what is the age-old battle of the yo-yo clubs for a fair few years. Although now it seems to have settled with Watford being in the Championship and Fulham in the Premier League, and Fulham doing well in the Premier League. But I actually think this will be a 1-1 draw here. And I think Watford to win on penalties. I think a cheeky upset with that one. Yeah, I definitely think Watford will back themselves. Wycombe Wanderers versus Portsmouth in what was a League One occasion last season. Portsmouth are currently bottom. No, they're not bottom. Sorry, they are in the relegation zone of a Championship. Sorry, we're not. They've gone out of it. Goal difference is the same as Hull City. I mean, pretty much in relegation zone. But I think up against Wycombe, a strong team. Wycombe will see if they can get something from this at Adams Park. But Portsmouth to win this one, 3-1. Yeah, I think Portsmouth were wanting a cheeky cup run themselves. Aston Villa versus West Ham United, the battle of the Clarets. Aston Villa at home here. I think Aston Villa could actually do really well in the FA Cup. 4-1 to Villa here. A good run for them in the cup will probably get them into Europe, I imagine. Actually, they could end up winning it. We'll see. Emery have got pedigree in this competition before. Birmingham City versus Lincoln City, an all League One affair, but I do think Birmingham City will win this one at home at St Andrews. Fairly routine, 3-1 to Birmingham City. Bristol City versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think this could be quite a close game, actually. It's at Ashton Gate. So it's home, and I think Bristol City will probably be wanting to get something from this. I think Wolverhampton Wanderers will narrowly win this one at 1-0. It'll be a close run occasion, and probably we'll see, end up being a championship occasion next season. Middlesbrough versus Blackburn Rovers. They played each other not that long ago, and they are now they can probably face each other in the playoffs, but also facing each other in the FA Cup. I think Blackburn will win this one, 1-0 to Blackburn Rovers. It's a tie which no one really has too much cares about, I would say, because nobody wants an all-championship occasion in a FA Cup game, do they? Liverpool are playing at home at Anfield against Accrington Stanley, and they'll probably play a very much weakened squad for this game. I'm going to go 2-0 to Liverpool. It won't be anything huge battering-wise because it will be Liverpool's reserves probably get thrown out on there. Leicester City versus Queen's Park Rangers. Yeah, Leicester City embroiled in a relegation battle themselves in the Premier League. Queen's Park Rangers have been gone on an amazing run, and I reckon this could probably continue in the FA Cup. 2-1 to Queen's Park Rangers. Cheeky upset, get them through to the next round of the FA Cup. AFC Bournemouth versus West Bromwich Albion. AFC Bournemouth looking very nice under Areola. I have no idea how to pronounce that guy's name. Sorry. In the Premier League, sitting just outside the European positions, up against West Bromwich Albion, who are competing for the playoffs. I reckon this will be a 2-2 draw, and it will go to the penalty shootout with Bournemouth winning on penalties. By the way, when I say penalty shootout, I also mean extra time. It basically means you either win penalties or extra time. Brentford versus Plymouth Argyle. Yeah, Brentford in the Premier League versus Plymouth Argyle, who have been pretty dreadful of late. I think Brentford will win this one fairly comfortably. 2-0 to Brentford. Chelsea versus Morecambe. I think at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea will be absolutely dominant in this display. 4-0 to Chelsea. Sorry, Morecambe. It's just not going to be your day. Exeter City versus Oxford United in what was a League One occasion last season. And I think Oxford will probably edge this one out. 2-1 to Oxford United. Yeah. Norwich City versus Brighton and Hove Albion in what was a Premier League occasion not that long ago. I think Norwich will probably grind this one out to a 0-0 draw at home at Carrow Road, but Brighton winning on penalties. Nottingham Forest versus Luton Town. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw here and Luton Town to win on penalties. I reckon a bit of a shock for Forest is in store. And if I can getting dumped out of the FA Cup, you love to see it, don't you? Preston North End versus Charlton Athletic. I think Preston will probably come through with this one. Charlton have just found their level at League One, and Preston have found their level at the Championship. 2-1 to Preston North End at Deepdale. We have got next Reading versus Burnley. I reckon Reading will get some, well, will be close at this one. I think I'm going to make it 0-0 at home at the Majeski. And you know what? We're going to go with Reading to win on penalties. I reckon a cheeky upset here for Burnley, which have got half an eye on the title in the Championship. Probably won't be putting the strongest lineup against Reading, who will be aiming for the playoffs in League One. I reckon Reading could get through. Sunderland versus Stoke City. Yeah, interesting one, this one. All Championship occasions. Sunderland at home. I reckon Sunderland will win this one. 2-1 to Sunderland here, getting them through. Hopefully drawn at home to Derby, so that we can, and if Derby get through, so I can go and see them. Leeds United versus Harrogate Town in what is a fairly localised game. I don't think they've ever had a competitive fixture with each other, only friendlies. But I think Leeds will probably comfortably win this one. 3-0 to Leeds United. Bit of a given game, this one. Manchester City versus Salford City. A lot of Salford fans are Manchester United fans as well. So this is actually quite a big game. I think it'll be a 0-0 draw with Man City winning on penalties. But Salford will give it their absolute best. Coventry City versus Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, a bit of a mid-table scrap in the Championship. If it was a league game, I think in the FA Cup, Sheffield Wednesday will probably win this one. 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. No replications of the heroics that Coventry had last season in this competition. Leyton Orient versus Derby County. I don't want to be dumped out by an upset, and we actually need to get a win. It's been a while since we've had a win. We've only won 2 games in the last 11. So I think Derby will win this one fairly comfortably. 3-0 to Derby County. I think we don't want to be dumped out in an upset in the first game that we have in this competition. I want a nice FA Cup run, please. Come on, one. Mansfield Town versus Wigan Athletic. I don't know whether this could well be a League One game, actually. This one's either an FA Cup one or League One, because it's... Let me just get it up. Because one of them, I know there's a few League One games coming up. Okay, this one is not a League One game. This is the final FA Cup one on this weekend. Both of these teams bit mid-table. Mansfield half an eye on playoffs, but I think Wigan will get through on this one. 2-1 to Wigan Athletic. See if they can get another FA Cup win to their repertoire. I mean, they're nowhere near the same team as they was when they last time won it. Let's just put it that way. On to League One, we've got Rotherham United versus Bolton Wanderers. Bolton will have an eye on the playoffs, but Rotherham, they've started to gather a little bit of a run together in terms of trying to push away from that relegation zone. They're certainly under a better run of form, I think, in the last 3 games or so than Bolton have been. I think you look at Rotherham, probably too big to get relegated. I know that's a thing which doesn't actually happen, but yeah, I reckon Rotherham at home as well. You have a New York stadium. Probably will be getting something here. 2-1 to the Millers. Blackpool versus Cambridge United. And I think you look Blackpool mid-table, Cambridge United in a relegation form. They've lost the last 5 games. Nothing seems to be really working at Cambridge at the moment. 1-0 to Blackpool. Fairly close game. Northampton Town versus Barnsley. Another team in danger of getting relegated is Northampton Town, although they have put themselves 6 points clear relegation zone at the moment. But they are up against Barnsley, who have won the last 4 games on the trot, and I think Barnsley are definitely a team which are playoff contenders. 2-1 to Barnsley here. continuing their great run of form. Shrewsbury Town versus Huddersfield Town. I think Shrewsbury Town have actually not been disgraceful in the last few matches, and I reckon they could actually win this one. It seems fairly bizarre to say, but they're the team which at the moment in that relegation 4 look like they could crawl out. 2-1 to Shrewsbury at home. Don't write them off just yet. On to the next game, we have Stevenage versus Burton Albion. Burton Albion under Boyer is a team which is based bottom of the league, but he does know what it takes to do well in this league. And against Stevenage, it may actually produce an opportunity. So they've only received 2 wins this season, but I reckon Burton could win this one. I hope that they do survive. They are my second team. I've had a little soft spot for Burton for quite a while. 2-1 to Burton Albion here, giving them all 3 points and maybe a gasp of a hope to survive. Grimsby Town versus Notts County in League 2. In what is 2 teams challenging for the playoffs. I mean, if you actually look at League 2, I don't know if anyone's actually looked at the table recently. If you're not a League 2 team supporter, then you probably haven't. But second place, Walsall are flying away, 10 points clear at the top of the league. They'll win the title, pretty much summed up at this point. Crewe are in second in 42nd with 42 points. And then between them and 7th is Doncaster on 40. There's 2 points separating 2nd and 7th right now. Notts County is one of them teams in that bunch on 40 points in 6th. Grimsby Town on 37 points in 9th. This is a big game. Grimsby have been just a bit too inconsistent of late. But I reckon it'll be a hard fought, and I'm going to go big. 5-5 draw. Absolutely mental. But 5-5 draw, I reckon it will be. Walsall versus Tranmere Rovers. Walsall will continue their run of form, winning. Tranmere, pretty poor team this season, down in 20th. We're going to go 1-0 with Walsall win. It'll be a close marginal one. Tranmere will be scrappy and horrible to watch. But yeah, Walsall will win it. AFC Wimbledon versus Cheltenham Town. Cheltenham in 13th, a bit far off, I think, for a playoff push at the moment. You never say never, but yeah, it's one of them ones that I just don't quite think that they have got the quality on paper to be able to do it. And I'm against an AFC Wimbledon team who are in fine form. I reckon AFC Wimbledon to win this one, the 5th place team, 5-1 to AFC Wimbledon. Carlisle United versus MK Dons. MK Dons in 11th. They have just been on a bit of a bad form themselves, and they can definitely get back into the playoff hunt. But I reckon against Carlisle, it's a great opportunity to do so. They are bottom of the league. But Carlisle will not come lying themselves down to be beaten. But we'll go 3-2 to MK Dons here. An end-to-end game. Gillingham versus Fleetwood. Fleetwood in 16th. They're definitely going to be mid-table coming into the season versus 14th place Gillingham, who will probably also be mid-table. Fairly boring game here. 0-0. Port Vale versus Barrow. Yeah, I think Port Vale will probably win this one. They've just slipped out of the automatic promotion zone because of Salford's amazing run of late. They're up against at home to Barrow. I reckon they'll probably win this one here. 3-1 to Port Vale. Swindon Town versus Crewe Alexandra. Crewe Alexandra in 2nd. Swindon Town all the way in 22nd. It does feel like a game which you would probably say Crewe will definitely win, but I don't think it'll quite end up like that. I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw. It'll be end-to-end. Again, Swindon are battling for their lives to stay up and get survival. So, yeah. On to the National League, we've got Aldershot Town versus Solihull Moors. The Solihull Moors outfit is a team which They're currently in 6th. They're definitely a team which I would say will probably reach the playoffs. Always seem to. They're just one of them teams that always seem to be there come the end of the season. They're up against Aldershot in 18th. Aldershot have drawn the last 3 games in a row, and it's probably going to be another draw here. A 1-0 draw. Yeah. Aldershot probably won't get relegated, but they'll be down. They're back to where they were for absolutely years, weren't they? Altrincham versus Wealdstone. Another team down there is Wealdstone at the moment in 19th. They're only on goal difference away from relegation zone, and I don't think their goal difference is going to be any healthier on the outcome of this game. Altrincham are 4 points outside the playoffs, and probably looking at this one with a glintering eye of opportunity at home. 4-1 to Altrincham here. Barnet versus Hartlepool United. Barnet have an eye on the title. They're 1 point off. They've just had a bit too many draws recently, which has meant that they've not quite managed to get there. But up against Hartlepool, who are 9th, it's not an easy game. They're 3 points off the playoffs. But I reckon Barnet will just win this one here. I'm going to go with a 3-2 win for Barnet at the Hive. Boston United versus Ebbsfleet United, a relegation scrap. We're going to go with a 0-0 draw here. I reckon there's not much in it. I think both of these teams will probably get relegated come the end of the season, based where they currently are. Both seem a bit marooned at the bottom to not have pretty much not been the greatest this season. AFC Fylde versus Sutton United. Fylde in 22nd. They're only a point off survival themselves. Got a bit of a poor goal difference. Conceded 50 goals. That needs to be fixed. This transfer window, well, their transfer window doesn't close, but if they wanted to get ones from higher up the leagues on permanence, then they would probably, I think they have to abide by January or something like that. They're up against Sutton, which is a hard task as it is, but they're 13th. Sutton, they've been inconsistent, and I reckon Fylde will get a point here. 0-0 draw could be a huge point to take, but they do need to convert them points into wins. But it's good to get a clean sheet if it did happen. I think Braintree could form a bit of a thorn in Gateshead's side, which I've had a bit too often this season. I'm going to go Braintree to win this one 1-0 away from home, which could probably be enough at some point. They just do get just enough points to survive. Maidenhead United versus York City. I reckon York will drop some points here. I actually do. Because Maidenhead, they're a point, goal difference off survival themselves. Yeah, I'm going to go with a point picked up by Maidenhead United. A 1-1 draw here at home at York Road, which isn't actually where York City play, but Maidenhead. Yeah, one of the oldest grounds in the world, actually. I'll have you know, York Road. But yeah, good 1-1 draw for them. Oldham Athletic versus Eastleigh. This time it's the other way around. We talked about these two teams already this video, having both played each other, and now it's a swap round. Oldham at home here to Eastleigh. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw with this one. I reckon Eastleigh haven't been poor this season. Let's put it that way. They've just been a bit mid-table, which is roughly where you'd expect a team like Eastleigh to be, to be honest. Southend United versus FC Halifax Town. Halifax are 3 points off the playoffs, but I don't think they've got enough in them to actually reach it at the end. I reckon the playoff teams that are there at the moment will probably be there come the end of the season. Up against Southend United, who have won back-to-back games. I reckon Southend will win this one. We're going to go 3-0 to Southend United at home at Roots Hall. It is a good stadium for this level and a team that will be hoping to push on. Just floating into mid-table in National League, and that's not really where they should be. Yeovil Town versus Woking. Yeovil in 11th against Woking in 17th. I think Woking slightly better of late in terms of the last 3 games. You look at them, they've picked up 5 points in the last 3 games for Woking, and I reckon they'll win this one 1-0 to the Cardinals. On to the National League North, we've got Brackley Town versus Needham Market. And yeah, certainly Brackley will be looking at the playoffs come into the season. I think Needham are pretty much dead and buried. Brackley currently, as we speak, are in 5th. Needham Market in 23rd. Yeah, Needham Market will probably lose this one. I'm sorry. I backed you a lot at the start of the season, but you just didn't come up with results. 3-1 to Brackley Town. Buxton versus Chester. Chester in 11th, but they are only a point off Buxton. Let's not get this mixed up, that there is a lot of closeness between from South Shields in 12th from 36 points to Darlington in 6th from 39. Or maybe up to Brackley in 40. It's a very close, congested playoff positions between any of them. What is that? Like 8 teams? That's quite a lot. I think Chester will win this one. Just an inkling. I want Buxton to get to the playoffs, but I'm going to go 4-1 to Chester. They invested a lot, and I think they'll probably invest a lot again. Curzon Ashton versus Scarborough Athletic. Curzon Ashton, top of the league, but I reckon it could be an upset here. Scarborough, very mid-table, get points all over the place. 1-0 to Scarborough Athletic here, close game. Darlington versus Chorley. Darlington in 6th, Chorley in 8th. 1 point separating these two teams as well. Darlington have certainly been the team in form at the moment. Chorley a bit mismatched, but I think Chorley will come away with the result here. I'm going to go with a 3-0 win to the Magpies. Hereford versus Warrington Town. Hereford have actually impressed me this season. I did not expect them to be up challenging for the playoffs. Only a point off the playoffs, mind you. They're up against a Warrington Town team who are in 19th, 3 points from relegation zone. You'd think it'd be a bit of a formality for Hereford here. I'm going to go with them to win at home. 2-1 at Edgar Street to Hereford. Kings Lynn Town versus Oxford City. Although Oxford have had a good run of form to take them outside of that relegation battle, Kings Lynn are no mugs, and they want to be capitalising on the points dropped by Curzon Ashton that I have predicted. And so I think Kings Lynn will win this one. 3-1 to the Linnets. Marine versus Kidderminster Harriers here, and Kidderminster Harriers are only 2 points off the title place for themselves. They're up against a Marine team which are very out of form. They're in 22nd, although Marine did win their last game, and they're only 3 points off survival, with the team of Farsley Celtic having a far inferior goal difference. So yeah, we're going to go a 0-0 draw here. It is at home for Marine, so that would be a huge point potentially come the end of the season. Peterborough Sports versus Farsley Celtic. This is 20th versus 14th, but Peterborough Sports have had a better run of form of late. I'm going Peterborough Sports to win this one here. I don't think it'll be a hugely high-scoring game. 1-0 to Peterborough Sports. Radcliffe versus South Shields. Radcliffe are in the relegation zone, only just 3 points in on 21st versus South Shields in 12th. South Shields have just not managed to get enough form to manage to get into the playoffs yet, but I do think South Shields will win this one. 2-1 to South Shields. Rushall Olympic versus Scunthorpe United. Scunthorpe United up in 3rd. Again, only a point off the promotion point play, or the title spot, which is a promotion spot. Rushall have won the last 2 games and suddenly come to life, having been pretty abject for most of the season, but against Scunthorpe, it's a difficult ask. 3-0 to Scunthorpe here. Southport versus Leamington. Leamington in 17th, Southport in 15th. A bit of a mid-table clash, you could probably say. Yeah, I think Southport will win this one. 1-0 here. Spennymoor Town versus Alfreton Town. Spennymoor down in 13th, Alfreton in 10th. But I do think this could be a closer game than what is warranted. Spennymoor do come out with some bizarre results, don't they? They do end up in mid-table more often than not, but have some great games in them. 2-1 to Spennymoor here at home. On to the National League South, we've got Aveley versus Chesham United. Aveley are in a relegation battle of a lifetime for them. They went from being in the playoffs last season to being in relegation form this season. In 16 points as only as all they picked up in 23rd. Up against the Chesham in 15th. You got to say Chesham would definitely be favourites coming into this one. But let's not write off Aveley either. But I am going to say that Chesham will win this one. 3-1 to Chesham United. It's a bit of an obvious prediction, but it's nevertheless one which I think most of you will probably be going for as well. Bath City versus Chelmsford City. Bath in 17th, Chelmsford in 13th. Both of these teams will probably be around about mid-table come the end of the season. It will be a good game, I think. End-to-end riveting football. Chelmsford 3, Bath City 2. Boreham Wood versus Hampton and Richmond Borough. Hampton Richmond in 12th, Boreham Wood in 2nd, who are only a point off the title themselves. I think Boreham Wood's rise during the last 3 months, I would say, has been absolutely astronomical. And at home again, 2-1 to Boreham Wood here, fairly routine win. Eastbourne Borough versus Truro City. Going to be a close game, this one. 4th versus 5th. 1 point separating the two teams. Truro definitely have an eye on the title. Eastbourne, a remote chance, let's say. But yeah, 1-0 to Truro City here. I think it's going to be a very close game and could go either way at Priory Lane. Hemel Hempstead Town versus Slough Town. Slough in 11th. Hemel Hempstead in 19th. Hemel Hempstead, I don't think have been great. They are sleepwalking into a relegation battle. I think that's fair. The synopsis to say for the Tudors. I think Slough will win this one. 3-2 to the Rebels. Hornchurch versus Worthing. Hornchurch in 14th, up against a Worthing team in 7th. And Worthing have been on an amazing unbeaten run to get themselves back into the playoff picture. And I think they'll win this one here. 3-1 to Worthing. Maidstone United versus Enfield Town. Maidstone have gone and won game after game after game of late. I can't remember the last time they didn't win a game. It's been that long. But they are against an Enfield Town who are 6 points from safety. They are in 21st. They're the ones nearest getting out of here. Out of it, and I reckon they will pick up something here. It does happen from time to time that you do get a bit of a shock. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw here at Maidstone's ground. It will be an interesting one. Salisbury versus Farnborough. Salisbury in 18th. Probably done a bit too much to be relegated. Farnborough themselves a bit too little to get into the playoffs, but at the same time, they'll both probably be content with where they are at the end of the season. Salisbury to win this one at home, 3-0. Tonbridge Angels versus Chippenham Town. Tonbridge Angels are on the cusp of maybe potentially reaching the playoffs. It's a bit of a tall order. They are 5 points off. They'll need some hefty points to swing into their favour in this second half of the season if they are to manage it. They're up against a Chippenham Town team who are in mid-table. As long as I have been following the National League South, they have been in mid-table. Tonbridge Angels to win this one, 2-0. On to the next game is Torquay United versus Welling United. Torquay are top of the league, and rightfully so. They have done a phenomenal job this season. They've kept things close at the back. They've not been overly scoring loads of goals like Boreham Wood have, but they have just been getting enough points on the board. They've managed to keep games close and succeeded when they needed to. They've succumbed the obstacles. They're up against Welling. So let's go with everything I've just said and reverse it for Welling. They've conceded 42 goals. They've only scored 24. It's just a case of not scoring enough for Welling, and to be honest, just not staying enough in games. Yeah, I reckon Torquay easy win here. 5-1 at Plainmoor for Torquay. Weston-super-Mare versus St Albans City. I know St Albans have had their hopes up of late to try and get safety. It's a bit of a tall order with a 7-point gap to try and reach that safety. Not impossible. They're up against Weston-super-Mare, and if they are to get safety, they will need to win games like this, because Weston-super-Mare, although 8th, have had some quite poor form recently, only picking up 3 points in the last 6 games. They've not won in an absolute age. Weston-super-Mare will be hoping to get back to winning ways here, but I think St Albans will win this one 2-0 to St Albans City. Weymouth versus Dorking Wanderers. Another team who are known for doing well in this league is Dorking Wanderers, and they are in 6th, so they're doing again a fairly good job, versus a team who somehow miraculously survived last season, but they are bottom of the league this season. Weymouth are absolutely way out from safety. Do you get what I did there? It was horrendous. But I think Weymouth at home here at the Bob Lucas Stadium could win this one. 3-2 to Weymouth. Bit of a shock win. Hull City versus Doncaster Rovers in a all Yorkshire, bit of a local derby in the FA Cup here. I think Doncaster Rovers will definitely be up for this one. 2-1 to Doncaster Rovers and their amazing cup run continuing. Tamworth versus Tottenham Hotspur, which is probably going to be an absolute sellout at the Lamb Ground. Is that what it's called? I'm pretty certain that's what it's called. I could be completely wrong, though. They're up against Tottenham. I'm going with a 0-0 draw from the non-league side, but Tottenham to win on penalties. It could be an absolutely huge game in Tamworth's history. It's a bit like, what Marine did a few seasons back with Tottenham. Arsenal versus Manchester United, also in the FA Cup. I think Arsenal will be up for this. 2-0 for Arsenal. And one of the big giants of football in this game are going to be knocked out in the early rounds of the FA Cup. Crystal Palace versus Stockport County. I do think Crystal Palace will win this one. I know Stockport are doing well, but 4-1 to Palace. They'll need something to cling on to this season as a earmark of it being an alright season, and a good FA Cup run can certainly do that. Ipswich Town versus Bristol Rovers. There's a mental to think about this, but only 2 seasons ago this was a League One occasion. Well, now it's a Premier League versus League One occasion, and I think Ipswich will win this one. 2-0 to the Tractor Boys at Portman Road. Newcastle United versus Bromley. I found out you have to pay an extortionate fee to become a membership to even get into a hat to go to a Newcastle game, so I am not going to this game after all. Unfortunately, I will be watching it on BBC iPlayer, but Newcastle versus Bromley, I think it will be a tough game for Newcastle. 0-0 draw, but Newcastle to win on penalties. Southampton versus Swansea City. Although Southampton have been battered from pillar to post in the Premier League and making Derby this record look like a good record in the Premier League. They're up against Swansea, and I reckon they'll probably win this one. They'll be looking to get something from the season. 5-0 for the Saints. Yeah. So we'll just probably show the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, really. Millwall versus Dagenham and Redbridge. I'm sorry, Dagenham and Redbridge. You're not going to replicate what Boreham Wood did against Millwall, and I think Millwall will have learnt lessons against non-league clubs. 5-0 to Millwall, a pretty dominant display. And that is it. There's not that many games on. There's only 87 games compared to the normal 100 and something I normally end up predicting in these videos. But let me know. The FA Cup is always an exciting competition, as is the EFL Cup we talked about earlier in this video. Let me know your predictions for the EFL Cup semi-finals in the midweek. Any of the FA Cup games that you're going to be looking out for and excited to, maybe ones which you're going to yourself. Do let me know, and please subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you all in the next one.